In June 2022, during a Russian attack on the village of Trypilya in the Donbas region, this Ukrainian vehicle was completely destroyed by a Russian RPG. Vitaly, a 42-year-old Ukrainian fighter, saw what happened. I was there. I saw the vehicle go in for the first time, bring the guys back, and then go in a second time. And then it got hit. Miraculously, despite the destruction, everyone inside survived to fight another day. But this was no miracle. It was exactly what the vehicle was made to do. It was designed by the Irish using American components, it's produced by the Australians, and is saving the lives of Ukrainians to this day. This is the Bushmaster Protected Mobility Vehicle. But how did the crew survive? What was it doing in Ukraine? To fully understand what's going on, we have to go back to February 1994, when Australia released their specification for a new Infantry Mobility Vehicle, or IMV. They wanted a light 4x4 all-terrain vehicle that could get Australian troops to where they needed to be and protect them from mines, IEDs, and small arms fire in the process. In the meantime, Australian troops were using the interim IMV, or IIMV, which was essentially a 6x6 Land Rover, known as the Parenti or later the Bush Ranger. These vehicles were fast and cheap, but offered the Aussies no protection at all. The new armoured vehicle was badly needed. 17 different design proposals were submitted from companies all over the globe. By September 1995, only 5 designs were left standing, and in January 1997, this was narrowed to just 2. Perry Engineering's Bushmaster proposal used a design created by Timony Technologies, based in Ireland. Their design, the MP44, used many components from the existing FMTV series already in service in the US Army. In fact, 65% of components used in the MP44 were from the FMTV, including the engine, transmission, steering, and all electrical and pneumatic systems. These components were produced by an American company, Stewart and Stevenson, a multinational vehicle to say the least. The rights to this design were bought from Perry by Australian Defence Industries in late 1996, with ADI making deals with Perry, Stewart and Stevenson, and Timony. The Bushmaster's competitor was known as the Taipan, a modified version of the South African Mamba, which was based on the Unimog chassis and was significantly smaller than Bushmaster. In March 1998, 3 prototypes of each vehicle were put through a grueling 44-week competitive evaluation. At the end, neither were deemed sufficient. But the Bushmaster won the contract in March 1999, albeit with a host of design changes. At time of writing, 1,200 Bushmasters have been produced. In fact, it was the first armoured vehicle to be designed and manufactured completely within Australia since the AC-1 Sentinel way back in 1942. I actually might do a video on the Sentinel in the near future, so make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on if you want to see that. But back to the Bushmaster. The Bushmaster design was optimised for, well, the bush. Australia's northern regions are incredibly hot and absolutely vast, so the vehicle had to be designed accordingly. The vehicle can hold 10, 1 driver and 9 passengers, with a range of over 800 kilometres. The Bushmaster has full air conditioning to protect its occupants from the searing Australian heat, and, despite weighing over 12 metric tonnes, can reportedly hit speeds upwards of 100 kilometres per hour, thanks to a 7.2 litre 300 horsepower turbocharged diesel engine. But the 40-degree heat of northern Australia was not the only thing that the crew needed protected from. Mines and IEDs are a very real threat to infantry vehicles, and the Bushmaster design worked to nullify that threat. The steel armour surrounding the crew compartment certainly helps, but the secret is how the armour is arranged. The Bushmaster's hull is V-shaped. In the event of an explosion underneath the vehicle, the V-shaped hull directs the force of the explosion up and away from the crew compartment, lessening the force of the blow and making it incredibly unlikely that the hull will buckle up into the crew as it would on a flat-bottomed vehicle. It also acts as sloped armour, increasing the amount of steel a piece of shrapnel will have to penetrate and making ricochets much more likely. The V-hull is barely visible in production Bushmasters, and you'd be forgiven if you thought it was just a regular truck. However, the V-shape can be easily seen here after an IED detonated under the vehicle and ripped the storage bins from the side along with both of the rear wheels. The crew in this incident survived to tell the tale, just like Vitaly's comrades in Ukraine. Of course, the V-hull design is not unique to the Bushmaster, and is present in many mine-protected vehicles dating back to the mid-70s and even earlier. This bizarre design is considered one of the first MPVs, the Rhodesian Leopard, which also has roll bars to further protect the crew following an explosion. The Bushmaster protects its occupants from mines, as its MPV designation suggests, but the vehicle's thick steel shell also protects the crew from IEDs, 81mm mortar fragments, and 7.62mm machine gun fire, including even armor-piercing ammunition. The fuel and hydraulic fluids are stored outside the crew compartment to further increase survivability, and the vehicle even has an automatic fire suppression system. So, the Bushmaster can take a beating, but it can also deal out some serious punishment of its own, utilizing an advanced remote weapon station that can mount weapons as heavy as a 50 caliber machine gun or even a 40mm automatic grenade launcher. The Bushmaster has also been built as a mortar vehicle, and there's even a plan to replace the crew compartment with 2 Naval Strike anti-ship missiles in a package known as a Strike Master. Bushmaster has served in Iraq and Afghanistan, being used by Australian, Dutch and British forces during the various conflicts in the region and seeing heavy fighting. 31 vehicles have been completely destroyed in Australian service and 7 have been destroyed in Dutch hands. Yet every single occupant survived in every single one of these incidents. And remember, these are just the destroyed vehicles. There have undoubtedly been many more blasts in which the vehicles survived as well as the crew. Decades later, in February 2022, and following months of build-up, Vladimir Putin announced a special military operation in Ukraine involving Russian troops. This was, of course, his way of saying that Russia had just commenced a full-scale invasion of its smaller neighbour. Understandably, Ukrainian forces struggled initially against the relatively modern fleet of Russian weapons and vehicles, and asked sympathetic countries for assistance. And the assistance would arrive over the following weeks and months. Anti-tank weapons, rifles, body armour, helmets, ammunition, howitzers, drones and more began to trickle into Ukraine, giving the Ukrainian armed forces a huge boost. The invasion was suddenly not going so well for the Russians. And on the 8th of April 2022, the then Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced that Australia would give 20 Bushmasters to Ukrainian forces, to be transported 4 at a time on Australian C-17 Globemaster aircraft. 3 more batches would be gifted by October, bringing the total to 90 vehicles. The majority of these were the standard APC variant, but some were fully equipped ambulances, saving Ukrainian lives in more ways than one. The Ukrainian troops, like the Australians, Dutch and British before them, soon fell in love with the Bushmaster. It was safe, mobile and comfortable. The Bushmaster is certainly a huge upgrade from the Ukraine's aging fleet of Soviet-era BTRs. Some Ukrainian soldiers even made videos telling those back in Australia just how much they appreciated them.
Australia, thank you. Yeah, these Bushmasters are just great, you know. We are extremely thankful they saved so precious life of our soldiers.
We're grateful to the people and government of Australia for providing these to us. They were a great asset to us in liberating the areas around Kharkiv. Together, we're working towards a victory. Slava Ukraini!
It's no wonder they keep asking Australia for more. However, when Australia deploys the Bushmaster, it has the luxury of deploying them alongside infantry fighting vehicles like the Aslav, which can bring serious firepower to the fight with a 25mm autocannon. Ukraine has no such luxury, and has been forced to use the Bushmaster itself as an infantry fighting vehicle, with the remote weapon system on top providing cover to nearby troops. Naturally, this is a much more dangerous role, and has led to multiple Bushmasters being destroyed in action by Russian forces using advanced anti-tank weaponry, which unfortunately has resulted in the vehicle experiencing its first combat fatalities. But still, of the 4 vehicles that were destroyed in the recent Kharkiv counterattack, only 1 resulted in the loss of the crew. These 2 vehicles, destroyed by mines in October, managed to protect those inside, who can now go on to fight another day. We're now in December 2022, and the Ukrainians fight on, with many Ukrainian lives being saved by this amazing vehicle, which will continue to serve in Ukraine and is planned to serve with Australian forces until at least 2030. I wouldn't be surprised if many more Bushmasters are sent to Ukraine in the coming months, to assist the UAF in pushing back the men that try to invade their homeland. Slava Ukraini, and I'll see you in the next one.